What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to the podcast tonight. Tonight is woo, America in crisis, economic Armageddon. I'm Professor Red Pill as always, and we have Swend here in the studio again, as second chair, and we're gonna go ahead and get into this.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna see what the government has been doing to assist the population that has been tremendously affected by this natural disaster, and see what's going on. If these people, apparently, I mean, I have been told from people on the ground or people that have friends on the ground, rather, that there's thousands of people missing, and they're not talking about it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying in the news coverage that when we covered it, like day of that the day that it landed, made ground landing, Hurricane Helena, that there'd be a lot of displaced people. Um, I mean, there'd be major disasters, power outages. It overestimated what I expected, and I said there'd be mudslides, there'd be roads like torn up and washed away, uh, people unable to move, and because it's a mountainous area and there's a lot of clay, it's just it's a shitstorm. I mean, they understand. I'll bring up the map. Those that are in the Telegram channel have definitely seen the map that I've been posting, but I mean, there's close to a million customers without power as of we speak right now, this today. And let me go ahead and bring that map up. I'm gonna share this tab. So this is Florida, and you can see this was all red at one time. It was red. It was red and orange all up and down the Gulf Coast, because when the hurricane came through, I'm gonna go ahead and share it. So you can see, in the north panel, it's been kind of cleared up down in Florida. There's only 8,000, about 9,000 customers without power right now in the state of Florida. But when the hurricane came through, it hit the entire Gulf Coast, and then the eye went into North Florida, right in the center of the North Florida, just east of Tallahassee. Governor DeSantis said that Tallahassee wasn't really that affected, and the reason why is because most of the storm surge was on the right side of the eye of the wall of the hurricane, and this was a huge hurricane. It was like 420 miles across, so there was at least 100 to maybe 150 miles of hurricane category 2 and 3 level winds on the coast, which was causing storm surges excessive of 10 feet all through the the western part of Florida in the Gulf. It destroyed a lot. The power outages, which was just part of the problem, but the big problem was, you see these little inlets here, Port Charlotte and in Tampa Bay. There's nowhere for the water to go. So when the storm surge comes into these little inlets, these little bays, the only place it has to go is basically into the cities, into the land. And there's no way to get it back out, because the storm surge is pushing more water into these little inlets as the hurricane continues to go up. So it just keeps piling up with water. It's like a little bowl. Like if you eat soup, or like you eat like cereal in the morning, you have a bowl of cereal, and it's as if you just keep pouring milk or water into the bowl. It just keeps filling up. There's no way for it to leave. It just keeps filling up until it basically comes out of the bowl. And that's basically what happened in these two Bay areas, Tampa Bay and then Port Charlotte. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out the region, and we can see the three states that are most affected: Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Still red.
Yeah, it still looks really,
167,000.
really, really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was all red at one time, but they've restored areas that, parts that were close to Florida, because this is still kind of flat land out here. So I mean, they're going to be quickly getting this back online. Georgia wasn't as big of a deal, because this was still relatively flat land, farmland, rural areas. A lot of it's just basically getting copper and generators and putting poles back up. So they're probably running out of poles. I saw here in South Florida they were moving a lot of stuff from the ports. They were moving stuff north. A lot of stuff like barricades. I'm talking about big barricades, like these cement barricades that were basically formed, and then they're just shipping whatever they can up north to these affected areas. So when I show you the Carolinas, it paints a whole different story. It's still like blocked off, man. I mean, this is still pretty bad. It's 200,000 people, customers without power. And the worst of it is, like I said, is the Carolina, is Western Carolina. As we can see, it's all red. This area is just, it's so hard to get to these people. It's 250,000 customers without power, and it's been over a week now. So I mean, could you imagine being? I was 2 weeks without power. When I think it was Hurricane. I want to say it was Hurricane Ian. There was a hurricane that came through. It took out power in 3 counties: Sarasota, Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands. There's no power at all, and for like 2 weeks, they had to rebuild the entire grid, and that's basically what they're doing here. So this takes time, and they probably got people from all over the country there trying to get these grids back up. But at the same time, these areas are very mountainous, so it's problematic because I mean, you got roads out, you've got all kinds of bridges and dams that have basically busted, and there's river water going into different parts of places it shouldn't be going to, that's been diverted. So they have to wait for the flooding to come down, then they have to go in and assess and rescue, then they can start clearing debris, trees, and different types of objects, with bulldozers and stuff like that, and then they could start rebuilding the roads. But this is going to take months, maybe a year, to rebuild this entire area. Some places you won't be able to get to ever. Like, they probably won't ever rebuild it ever again. They'll probably just bulldoze the whole town and just leave it. There was a video that I did see. I think it was Chelsea Graham. They were talking to him. He said, "Yeah, I know we have a problem in the mid South, but Israel's a bigger problem." Is what he said. And as he was saying that, you could see bulldozers in Asheville where they were just basically just tearing the entire buildings. They were demolishing the buildings because they're not going to rebuild there. They're just, those people aren't going to come back. They're gonna be displaced. Now, here's the kicker though with the displaced people is where are they going to go? Because all of the FEMA shelters right now and all of the different shelters the federal government and states have are filled with what, Swend?
What's up, man? What are you asking?
Well, the question I'm asking is all these FEMA shelters, all of these these shelters for victims of the hurricane, where are they exactly? What are those shelters full of right now? What are the people that are in those shelters right now?
Oh, yeah. So there happens to be a lot of dual purpose use of this infrastructure for the facilitation of DEI, but not even DEI regular. It's migrants coming from all over the world, literally, through the Mexican border. I mean, there's reports of 80,000 Chinese people getting into America within the last 3-4 months, and they're all traveling to Mexico, just getting into America. They're all trying to escape all of these things. They have heard a lot of beautiful things, and they've heard, hey, man, Joe Biden is in the presidency. The borders are wide open, and you see hundreds of thousands of Indians, anything, Somalis, Nigerians, everything that you can think of. And so they are taking up resources, a big part of the big chunk of the resources that the state has. Instead of them giving those resources to the damaged people, they're giving them to migrants.
Yeah, exactly. So all these shelters that would take these displaced people are basically being filled up with immigrants, as you can see from the cartoon here, where the people these Americans are thinking they're coming to rescue them with Chinooks, but they're just dumping DEI migrants on their roof.
Oh yeah, that meme. Yeah, it's really funny. It pretty much summarizes it.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently, let's go ahead and go to the and like I said, we covered this the night of the storm. I said all this stuff, everything that's happened so far over a week ago. I said this all would happen to the T. Exactly, I predicted exactly what would happen because I know the area. I know these storms very well. I've been in 3 of them, or five of them at this point. One category 2, one category 3, a category 5. several tropical storms. I mean, maybe a dozen of these storms over my lifetime being in South Florida. And I've dealt with FEMA. I've dealt with the aftermath and cleanup and relocating to a shelter, temporarily for a week or two at a time. It was a pain in the ass. It wasn't fun by any imaginable. Yeah, any of them. You couldn't even imagine how terrible it is. It's pretty much like being the best way to describe it is like being in a war zone, which I have been in as well, and it was very similar. So this is I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is from Congress. Let me see if I don't know if I can even pull this up, but
You
basically
could
it
zoom
said,
into it, perhaps.
"Oh, I can't even do that. I just can't do it."
There is an
But
option in the operating system to do it, but like I'll teach you how to do it later.
yeah, I'll just read it. It's okay. So yesterday you stand that the Federal Emergency or FEMA, which is part of the departments of your department, does not have enough funds to make it through the hurricane season. This news comes after FEMA has spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on migrants due to the border czar Kamala Harris open border instead of prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by disasters. My office has been in contact with whistleblowers and numerous emergency management functions at the federal, state, and local levels, and they all point to the same critical mismanagement issues. FEMA has wasted taxpayer funds, misappropriated funds, and left other federal, state, and local responders without deployment orders on the ground. Um, as reported and further confirmed by my office, hundreds, if not thousands, of service members were deployed by the Department of Defense to North Carolina and have sat idle waiting for basically FEMA's orders or FEMA's response. We have confirmed FEMA employees deployed on the clock awaiting orders in hotels. FEMA pre-disaster aid was withheld exaberant or excessive amounts for the emergency. It is also public that NGOs have purchased airline tickets for migrants through the use of FEMA funds. The aftermath of Hurricane Helena is a major disaster. It's the worst disaster in the history of the United States, bar none. And I said that the night that we're reporting for 6 hours. I stayed up for
Isn't it
six
funny
hours
how,
recording.
like, if it's not hyped up as the biggest thing that ever happened, if it's not hyped up, like nobody really thinks too much about it, it's like, okay, whatever. Like people don't even realize that the magnitude of it. Like
They
this
can't
is what
even.
naturally happens if you don't
Yeah, I
hype it up.
mean, I have correspondents in the area. I have news people in the area that I've asked, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? Do you want to cover it? And they were like, I can't even get to that area. Some were like, I just can't get in the area because there's no roads going in. The only way in is by helicopter, and the government is preventing people from coming in. They're preventing news reporters, and these are legit news reporters from very big name news sources I do not want to list out live on the air, but in the Telegram group I have said. They're either not able to get there, they don't want to go there because they don't want to interview people who just lost everything and possibly were uninsured and basically lost their entire livelihood, businesses, vehicles, photos, like gifts and different types of memorabilia from their family members, handed down heirlooms. They lost everything, gone, just gone. And a lot have been starving for several days because, like I said, when the power goes out for more than a day or two, that food's spoiled. You can't eat it. You can only eat it like one day. So like the food goes out, it spoils. You have to eat that within 24 hours. After 24 hours, unless, and like I said, do you understand? It's not like Florida, or it's not like an area where like it maybe had an earthquake or had some type of had a really windstorm or something like that, where the power got knocked out. Like here in Florida, there wasn't a lot of flooding. You could store stuff in the freezer and it would stay good for a couple of days, or you could put it in coolers. They had catastrophic flooding in most of the mid-south in Florida, throughout the west coast of Florida, all the way to as far as the Great Lakes and to New England. They had flooding all through the country. They lost everything. You can't get to food if there's a flood. There's chemicals in the water. There's pollutants. It gets in the food in the fridge. It's done. You can't even. You're done. You have no food and you have no clean water. So there are people that, after day 24, and we're now on what day? When did it make landfall on the? It was Friday last week, so it's about a week and a half, or week and a day, give or take. And there have been people without food and water for over a week now. Clean drinking water and food, and they still can't get food to them for some reason, because FEMA doesn't give a shit and the government is mismanaged and we have incompetent leadership. So that being said, I'll continue with it. The aftermath of hurricane. So it's a major disaster, and your waste and unpreparedness are leaving America in distress, unable to access food, water, and medicine, and expecting help with none coming. Please provide answers to the following questions to my office, October 11, 2024. By October, so in 5 days, and by then people probably die from heat exhaustion or lack of water. People do die from from exposure, especially when it's 90-degree temperatures right now in the mid South, with no water, no clean drinking water. Yeah, it is what it
They
is.
have no roof. They have no roof above them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some are just sleeping in the woods with animals and shit running around with mosquitoes, and like 80 degree temperatures at night. So please provide answers to the following questions to my office. What policies and regulations of the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA prevent emergency funds from being wasted on illegal aliens or illegal immigrants, including what conditions are placed on the basically what the hell is going on with this money? They talk about the budgets and like all this. This is Matt Gaetz, member of Congress. Matt Gaetz is a congressman from the state of Florida, from I believe Boca Raton, which is basically Miami-Dade area. Yeah, he's real deal, man. He's pretty pissed off, and I would be too if I was a congressman. These are representatives that are like going to bat for us. So it is kudos to him, man. But yeah, that's the reality. I mean, the topic of the night is like economic Armageddon. We talked about last week: civil war, civil unrest, martial law, and
Yes.
because there were saboteurs apparently that were reported in the mid South. There were apparently allegedly militias that were sabotaging trucks to bring aid in. We don't know if it was malicious or who knows who it was. But at this point, I imagine that there's probably militias in that area, probably activated, probably helping to protect the town and basically bring civil order in. But we don't know because there's no cameras and there's no crew down there. So my people in there, they said they can't get in there, and if they are, like they say, they don't want to go in there, basically. So we don't know. It's immediate blackout, basically.
That's what it is. Yeah, we've been talking about it since the beginning, and it turned out to happen just like that. I said it. It's like the Soviet Union. It's you cannot know what's going on unless you talk to
Yeah,
people there.
yeah, because there was another story here. We'll go ahead. I'll just go into it. Basically, let me go ahead and do that. FEMA blocking and seizing Starlink shipments into North Carolina. This is a recent story that came out. Let me see. Is it up? Let me go pop the stage here for you. There we go. All right.
It's the sound of solace. Help is on the way.
We just kind of organized a private helicopter army to go in and survey the damage and extract people and take supplies in and just create landing zones for everybody to have supply routes in and out.
Matt McSwain is a pilot from Mount Holly and says he received a call from Operation Airdrop, an organization now working to shore up relief and rescue efforts for folks trapped in North Carolina's high country.
We've had 37 helicopters today, volunteers. We've had people from Texas to Maine, all the way across the East Coast, just show up and like, how do we help?
For folks who remember Katrina, there's like the Cajun Navy.
Right.
I feel very much like this is Cajun Navy.
Yep, this is Redneck Navy.
Did I miss something? Oh, that was the end of the story. Okay. Yeah. What do you think about that, Sweden?
The help is coming. It's coming in its way. Just you wait. Don't worry about it. The help is coming. Hey, man, did you know the help is coming your way?
Well, they said that to the people in Fort Myers and Puerto Gorda 2 years ago. They never came. It required volunteers, private volunteers, and NGOs and private companies to go out there and help clean it up. I mean, we're 2 years later, and there's still tarps sitting on people's roofs in Fort Myers and Puerto Gorda, in these areas, waiting for their roofs
Race.
to get repaired.
Race, man. Never heard about that.
I've got pictures. I'll post them to the chat. I'll go check the house out tomorrow if you want, and I'll post them. But I've got a house at my neighbor. I wasn't there. I stayed at my other house, and apparently, it exploded. It was right across from me too, like literally my apartment was
Which
right across
house
from the house.
exploded? What exploded?
This was during the hurricane. I was at my mom's house because I didn't want to stay in the apartment because it was next to a lake. There was a category 2 coming, and it made a direct hit in my town, and I didn't want to be in this like 50-60-year-old apartment, like condo, with those type of conditions. And it was a good decision on my part because what ended up happening, we lost power for about a week afterwards. But the house that was directly across from me, that was about 300 feet away from me, exploded. It was about 500. It was about half a football field away. It exploded in the middle of the night due to generator. Morons. And I think they were uninsured. So like basically this thing, the tree
Gas leak was
exploded.
a gas leak.
Maybe, I don't know. They're morons. And their house exploded. And if I was there, I could have possibly died. And my car was parked right where the house, right near the house. So like my car would have been destroyed. Yeah, during the hurricane. They're waking people up and telling them they had to move their cars. The police, the fire department came out during a hurricane, a category 2 during a hurricane. It was when the eye passed over and it was calm. The fire department came out and was telling people to move their cars because like you could feel the heat from it because the house was burning. And they said like like stuff was melting, like plastic. The bumpers were melting almost. It was so hot. Because they didn't want secondary explosions. This is kind of shit that happens during hurricanes, man. It's not fun. So basically what happened was, in a nutshell, I moved from that place. I'm in a different place now, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. These are the things that happen during hurricanes. Let me get this other article here. This was from Elon Musk tweeted this. So apparently, calm before the storm. Fed says there's no money left for hurricanes after it spent 1.4 billion immigrants. We just covered that, by the way. But I don't know if this is from. I don't know where this photo was from. But that's how bad it was. I mean, we posted a lot of stuff, and I don't want to post anymore because if you want, you just go to that Twitter post where we posted a lot of stuff on. They go Hurricane Helena on Twitter. But yeah, this is. I said this, man. Did I not say this? Did I not say this the night of the 6 hours that we streamed that the FEMA was broke and they probably wouldn't respond because they were broke 2 years ago. They didn't respond because they didn't have money to come down here to Florida to clean up bad hurricane. They said they were broke. They didn't have the money or the personnel. So DeSantis and they sent. Here's the kicker: they sent the Florida National Guard to Israel or to Europe for Ukraine. Not even like right before the hurricane, during hurricane season. I was like, why the fuck? I was like, DeSantis, why did you allow for your National Guard to go overseas when you know you're getting ready for hurricane season? You're going to need those guys, and that's why he made an executive order to start the state guard for hurricane cleanup and stuff. And I think they were deployed recently. So, it looks like Florida, they did okay. I mean, they got it cleaned up pretty quick and power back on. So, I mean, they're well organized, but it's Florida. I mean, they're so used to these that it's like clockwork for them. And it was a rural area, so it was pretty easy to clean it up for the most part. Very flat, North Panhandle. There's not a lot of populations. Hardest hit in Florida was basically east of Tallahassee, but it's all farmland. And Tampa and Fort Myers again. A lot of flooding downtown. And I think they just had to wait for the flooding to subside, and then they went in there and started helping people and getting shit in order. But yeah, I mean, this is the reality of things. There's another issue. So basically, what we're getting to with it is the economic Armageddon, so to speak, and that has to deal with insurance. So this is an article that we posted from thousands of uninsured homes were in Helena's path, and I think obviously they printed this a couple days after I'd posted, or I did the last podcast or the last few podcasts, or about a week later, and now it's a big deal. Um, you know, like all the stuff came after we started talking about this stuff, and then there's nobody on social media talking about it until like I started posting on Twitter and on Trump's Twitter account, and then all of a sudden Trump and JD Vance start talking about it, and now the whole media is talking about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting how that works. But yeah, so this is from the Washington Post. Thousands of uninsured homes were in Helena's path. It's not thousands of uninsured. It's 1 out of 10 in the state of Florida. And I think there's roughly 17 million people living in Florida. So what it was the math on that? One per
1.7 million. Yeah.
10% of yeah. So there's 1.7 million people in Florida alone that are uninsured. That doesn't include the underinsured. So just because you have insurance doesn't necessarily mean you have adequate insurance. So it could be even higher. So it's 1.7. You know, and the areas affected. What was the total number in Florida? I think it was in three. It was like close to 1 million people in Florida alone. Customers lost power. You know, that's food spoilage. That's you know, there could be damage, property damage, stuff like that. So, like I said, the claims could be in the millions nationwide. This is going to bankrupt the insurance companies, and FEMA's out of money. So there's no loans, no SBA loans. There's no disaster release grants. There's nothing coming.
Think about
So,
it. As I mentioned
yeah.
before, these states are those that need constant income. They need constant inflow of income to be able to constantly repair damage that is caused by the storms, which means that if all of the states in the south were not to regenerate revenue and you were to leave them there for 50 years, everything will be destroyed.
Yeah, eventually. Eventually. It doesn't take much in Florida. It's not so much even the hurricanes and storms. It's also that this is a very in the southeast is a very hot and humid area of the country, and a lot of vegetation, a lot of animals. Eventually, the weather, or eventually it gets overtaken with black mold and it decays, and like nature just quickly takes over. I'll actually show. Well, in the after show, we're gonna show some of the places that these guys go check out, these abandoned properties and stuff. And there's some in Florida. We'll show you what it looks like, the aftermath, shortly after, like not even like a year or two after, you know, property gets abandoned, how quickly it gets taken over by nature into Florida. So I mean, it wouldn't take long, not long at all. I mean, we see all the bombed out buildings in like the Rust Belt, and that's very tempered. You know, it's a very tempered weather. Like they have very stable temperatures, and I mean they get cold winters, they get a lot of snow, but like it's really the hot, humid weather that kind of starts to deteriorate, melt shit. You know, grass grows very quickly. I mean, if you didn't mow, not to get on a tangent, but if you didn't mow outside here in Florida for a month or two, you'd have grass as high as like several feet, 3 or 4 feet, just in a couple of months. I've seen it. I've personally seen it myself. You know, grass like literally 4 or 5 foot tall. You know, but yeah, I mean, I honestly think my prediction. I talked about it in the Telegram group or previously in the week when we were getting ready for this podcast for Friday, is that I predict, and unfortunately my predictions have been pretty accurate so far, even timetables. That this storm's going to be in the trillions of dollars. We still have a war in Ukraine. There's a war in Israel now. This didn't happen, or the Ukraine conflict happened right about the Ian incident, but most of those people were insured. That was before the hyperinflation. But anyway, we have a war in Ukraine, a war in Israel, a possible war with Iran, union strike on the East Coast. Was that? Did they ever get the collective bargaining on that? Do you know, Swin?
Collect the what?
Did they come in an agreement?
With whom?
The strike.
Oh,
The
it seems as though it continues to go on. Maybe in some
Oh,
ports they have reached an agreement, but as far as I'm aware, it's the union goes across the coasts, or is it like what's your understanding of that organization?
it says I'll pull this article up if it doesn't give me one of those like bullshit things. It says dock workers. Let's see, dock workers strike suspended. Tentative agreements include 62% pay raise over 6 years. So what they said, it's suspended. So suspended just means suspended, doesn't mean that it's over. So I guess they've come to some collective bargaining, is what I was
It
saying.
says
I
that
don't
they
think
reached a deal uh, to end East Coast strike immediately. This is with about rotors. Rotors. They reached a deal.
Oh, okay. Okay, then that's pretty. Rotor's pretty a pretty reliable source.
Tentative deal includes 62% wage hike over 6 years. Okay, that's good. Strike affected 336 ports. It still hasn't gone away. Like this is just talking about the East Coast. But okay,
A lot of
Now
DEI
they're
there.
gonna be earning $63 an hour. That's good.
Yeah, I mean the average person in America earns $15 an hour. 15
But
to
this is the
20.
thing. It's like these people have leverage. These people have so much leverage because
Yeah,
they like
because
if
they're
yeah
backbone of the country's economy.
yeah
Yeah.
they're
I mean
celebrating.
they're semi-skilled people. Some are very skilled. Um, but they're union. This is why you need unions, because unions make sure that you're paid, you're compensated well, and that you're given,
But
you're
it's
given
like they're
adequately.
lying too in the sense that like only 1/3 make $39 an hour to begin with, and those are like the more skilled ones. So
I think
like
they
that
probably make.
1/3 is gonna be making $63 now.
Yeah, I imagine they make good money, dude. These guys, some of these higher skilled people, the supervisors and some highly skilled like people with seniority are making easy six figures easily in union jobs. That's why the unions left. The union jobs left the Rust Belt
But
was
what? Yeah,
because the salaries are too high. You know,
that's what I mean. It's like now this is gonna send a wave of encouragement throughout all of the communist socialist movements across the United States, and now you're gonna see like other people wanting to do the same. But what
I
they
think
don't realize,
I
go
think
ahead.
everybody. I think all this is a call to action. Everybody in the United States that's a millennial or Zoomer, even the X Gens, you bastards, go on strike. Don't go to work. Boycott. The McDonald's. I want fair pay, equal pay. I want benefits. I'm going on strike, and we'll see how quickly the government starts doing some collective bargaining for the non-union people in America.
I don't
See how
think they
quickly that
can do
happens.
anything. I think things will just completely fall apart. It's just
Well,
that
that's better
it's
too. We'll just let it collapse. It's fine. That's the whole point of the economic Armageddon. It's going to happen regardless. Doesn't matter if Trump or Biden's elected. We're still going to see economic Armageddon. I think that's going
like
to happen
if
regardless.
you saw a lot of this like employees like wanting to, oh, we want better pay. Okay, have here like 100% of their 110% of the revenues. Okay, like well, now we're bankrupt. Okay, like now you don't have a job anymore.
Oh, they have the money. They have the money. It's just that boomers at the top are greedy motherfuckers, and they're taking a lot of it.
That's
Even these
true.
union,
That's true.
even
But like,
the
yeah,
union bosses are taking a lot of it. I mean, you got to understand. There's fucking boomers that are literally living on Social Security all around my slave tower. It's all boomers and shit that are living in this like affordable housing and like basically living paycheck to paycheck on Social Security. It's like, dude, hey, boomer, Social Security is not meant. It's not meant for that. You're not meant to live on Social Security. It's a supplement income. You should own a house. You should have. I mean, you've had your entire life to make money, buy a house, and the fact that you're living in subsidized housing or you're living in affordable housing and you're living fucking paycheck to paycheck on Social Security. That how the fuck does that happen? You're the wealthiest generation in the history of the world. How the fuck does that happen? Oh, 6 divorces later. You know what I mean? We have a
yeah,
breakdown
yeah,
of
yeah,
two. I'm not happy. Divorce.
yeah.
Baby's
Yeah, I
mamas.
mean, people should demand like a fair wage if the business whom they are working with can pay it. Because some of these businesses are like small businesses. Like not all businesses are like boomer meme lama.
I mean, the even the small businesses, a lot of the boomers, like they retire and they sell the business off to their they sell it off to like bigger corporations, regional companies. I
Yeah.
know several boomers that like they ran a regional battery, a large manufacturing battery company, and they sold it off, made millions. They retired. They bought multiple houses, and unfortunately, they died recently. But yeah, they were very wealthy. And they worked hard. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't work hard or anything. Oh, fuck no, though. They worked hard. They worked their ass off. But at the same time, they had the opportunity. And he was like telling me, he's like, yeah, I got a business loan, and I franchised, and the company supported me to start a business, and I had all this opportunity. And I took it. You know what I mean? I was working in a coal mine, working my ass off, and I was like, I just want to run a business. And he was successful. And unfortunately, the younger generations just don't have that opportunity anymore. It's very competitive, especially for a wage slave job. And the wage slave jobs don't pay shit. That's why I keep telling you guys, man, you need to consider looking outside the country if you want to have a future, if you want to have a family. If you just want to live paycheck to paycheck, play video games, that's fine. Hey, I have no problem with that. I personally have no problem with that at all. Make enough to support yourself. You know what I mean? Not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, if you personally want to have a stable life and a family and everything, don't marry a slam pig, American slam pig. Go overseas, go marry a foreign woman, and stay in her country, get citizenship, and start a business and work and live a happy life. But you ain't gonna do that in America and Western economies. It ain't gonna happen. We're at the brink of a economic Armageddon, as the title displays, and civil war, civil unrest. That's what I think is coming in the next year, 2025. It's going to be the war. It's going to be the year of it's going to be the defining year of the American empire in the Western economies. What do you think, Spun?
2025 is going to be. 2024, I mean, it might even happen in the last of the year, but we still have to see the unraveling of this whole dynamics. It's gonna show very clearly in 2025. And yeah, it doesn't seem to be going in a good direction. If you can get
Yeah,
out of the United States to a more stable country, you should definitely
yeah,
go. Make sure it's not that dependent on the USA as well.
yeah. And it's still you're still able to do it. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys here in 2 months. I'm going to go over to a country. I'm going to show you how easy it is to get in, how easy it is to start a bank account, how easy it is to start a business, and get a cell phone, get a bank account. And I'm going to show you how easy it is within 24 hours and an apartment. I'm going to show you all that. I'm going to put it live here on the podcast. You can follow me, and then you could do it too. It's not for millionaires. You don't have to be a billionaire or Bill Gates or any of this shit. You can be working paycheck to paycheck if you scrounge enough money to put a down payment on an apartment, pay for your flight, and relocate. Be all right. There's a lot of opportunity out there. But yeah, that being said, like I said, I think 2025 is going to be a huge dumpster fire. I mean, 2024 is already a dumpster fire, but 2025 is going to be a dumpster fire on steroids, I think, definitely. Maybe we'll show this one. Hey, let's go ahead and show one more meme here. This was from the Liberty Rising group with Mad Maxwell that comes on the podcast from time to time. So Ukraine, was this 91 million? There's that billion. I'm not good with numbers.
That's 91 billion right there.
Yeah. So Ukraine gets 91 billion. Israel gets 3,300,000. Afghanistan gets 4,890,000, or let's just say 5 billion. Israel gets 3 billion. Taiwan gets half a billion. The immigrants get 13,000 EBT cards and 5,000 cash. Helena families get a check for $750 and they lost everything. Maui Fires get $700 check, and Marco warns FEMA doesn't have enough funds to last through hurricane season.
$700 for the Maui fires, and it's
That's
like Hawaii. In Hawaii,
that's
everything is
listen.
expensive.
That's $700 per family, per household. That's not per person. Understand, guys? That's not per person. That's $700 per household. So if you have multiple families living in one household, like in Maui and some of these Mid-South areas and in Florida, where you have multiple families living in one house, so they can't afford to have their own fucking place to live, That you only get one per you only get one per household. So if you have two families, you have to split that 700 between two families.
That's only gonna last like a week or a week and a half, dude.
One
for the
fucking
food.
day. One fucking day. $700 pays. Let's say average rent in Florida alone is $2,000 a month just for rent. Electric's around $200 to $300 a month average rent price or average electric price.
Yeah, it's much
And the
higher
average-
than Maui. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Maui's probably 3 times that. Welcome to Collide. Welcome to the collapse. Like I
Dude,
said,
they're going to the beaches. They're like there's a lot of homelessness in the beaches in Hawaii for the people that I know there, and a lot of them are just drug addicts. They're meth heads.
we got a documentarist I invited to the show. He's going to eventually come on. What was his name again? I'll get you. I don't want to show any of his content. We'll wait for him to come on, but I'll announce it later. I'll let you know who's coming on. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, he does. He's went to Hawaii. He's went to the Mid-South. He's been to all these different places, and he's shown the poverty across the country. He goes to like homeless camps and stuff like that. He was almost stabbed once, I guess, up in where the hell was it? Up in Alaska. But I'm not gonna give his name yet. He'll introduce himself and we'll talk to him. I invited him tonight, but he's pretty busy right now, I think. But yeah, I honestly think, like I said, I predict, like I said a week ago, and I said in the last previous podcast, I was like, yeah, there's gonna be people pretty much at the point of their boiling point in this country. The boiling points, like I said, were the strikes, the union strikes at the ports, Hurricane Helena aftermath. People are still pissed off in Ohio. The immigration crisis and the war overseas. These constant wars that are getting funded, like Israel and Ukraine, and people at their fucking breaking point. So I don't know. It's just some powder keg's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you guys, and I keep predicting it's gonna happen this year. It's gonna happen 2025. It's gonna be a dumpster fire on fucking steroids. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna tip, cause that steamer. It's like my colleague back in Saudi I was working with. He said like Iran's like that. He's like it's like a steamer, like one of those steam cookers. He said it's where when it gets really hot, because it uses pressure to cook, and you like do like this, and you can hear it going. It makes this loud ass noise, right? When it's about ready to get above where it needs to be, where it can explode, and you got to turn it off. And he said Iran's like that, where it gets like that, and then the government comes in, they kind of shut it down, and they alleviate it. But we're in America right now, in the Western economies, predominantly United States. It's a steam cooker right now. And the steam cooker is red. And it's making that noise that, hey, I'm about ready to fucking explode. You need to calm it down. And the incompetent leadership does not give a fuck. They don't care. And what happens when leadership, your representatives don't listen? Shit fucking explodes, man. And when the powder keg explodes, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube anymore. Once that shit comes out, it's done. So I mean that's we're close, very close to that in the United States, I think. What do you think, Swen? I mean, you see that down in South America a lot of times. All these countries like Venezuela, you're pretty close there. I mean, what have you observed? Do you have friends in that area? You still there, brother, Swen? I guess he's all right. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like I said, it's basically a powder keg. You guys listening, people that are tuning in right now, we got a couple like at least 100 viewing us all over just different social media outlets. You guys know. I mean, you guys are probably feeling the same shit. I'm not saying anybody's going to do anything. I'm not saying that anybody directly watches this or me saying to go do something. I'm just saying like, go protest, go, stop going to work. Quiet quitting. You know what I mean? Just say, fuck it. I don't want to work for 15 an hour. I'll just work enough just to make enough. I'll live out of a fucking car or a van.
Yeah, don't
just do my
give
thing.
a resignation letter. Just leave.
Yeah, fuck them. But yeah. Now that you're here, the question I have is like I was talking about powder keg in the West. what have you seen like Venezuela and South America that you've noticed, or anything like people that you've
What do
talked
you
to
mean
down
by
there?
powder cake, though? Oh, you mean like the accumulation of eventually all of the circumstances leading up to like explosion
People
event.
revolting. Yeah, explosion
Yeah,
event where
yeah.
people just
So for
revolt in the
example, right,
streets. Yeah.
the powder cake already happened in Venezuela in the year 2017. That was like the biggest pressure that the government ever had, and because the population of Venezuela is not armed, they don't really have like many weapons. The military was able to hold off. The military was able to keep the government at bay by basically shooting anyone that like wanted to revolt. They were like hunting them in the streets. And so yeah, Venezuela is like a post powder cake society, like a post collapse country. Literally, their economy went the lowest that any other country has ever gone in history, pretty much. Their currency got super hyper devaluated. But now we see China is investing $200 billion in port infrastructure in Venezuela, in oil infrastructure in Venezuela. So like they are the post collapse economy, and so like basically it's a return to feudalism. It's a return to feudalism. There's only like poors and super rich. That's all. That's it. There is no middle class.
Yeah,
The only
that's like
middle
the
class
US.
is like employees of the super rich people, and
Yeah,
those are like a very
basically.
small class of people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's America. That's America right now. There's no middle class. It's basically poor. Um, you're either poor working class or you're upper middle class or rich. There is no middle class
But
anymore. It's
In Venezuela, it's like a military dictatorship on top of that. It's like it's very, very joy. Yeah, but yeah, that's it. It's like you can't do anything. You try to do anything, you're gonna get shot by the guard. Like you're gonna get kidnapped by the state. So it's just like oligarchy, oligopoly. However you say it.
yeah, exactly. Oligarchy. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're close to that here. We're close to. I mean, like Terrence Pop was on here a while back, a couple weeks ago. He was saying, yeah, he's like, we're close to that. We're gonna see a Hitler come, you know, in the West. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Napoleon, Napoleon came out of the ash. Like I said this many times in the podcast. I said it in the Telegram group. Link is in the description. But I've said that when the powder keg happens and this shit and there's revolting in the street, George Floyd was a controlled demolition. The George Floyd protests, the Summer of Love in Seattle and Capitol Hill. This shit was basically controlled by the Democrats and the liberals, the progressives. This wasn't, and like NGOs and different types of people, different actors, and it was encouraged. But the real powder keg is yet to come. And when that comes, there is no controlled demolition. There is no, we'll just put them in Chaz zone. We'll put them in Capitol Hill because it's a bunch of liberals anyway. We don't care if they burn down their own neighborhood. The protest and like, across the country, we'll just, it's in their own neighborhoods. We'll let them just burn their own neighborhoods down, like in like the LA riots kind of thing, Koreans on rooftops. But like, the situation is that when this powder keg goes, it's not going to be just, summer of love. It's going to be the summer of death. I mean, this is going to be a two-way rifle range. What Terrence Pop was saying. And then there's going to be people going missing and, people getting hung, guillotined. That's for sure. If it gets that bad. And that's why I don't want to be in the United States when that happens. I'd rather be
Yeah, the
overseas.
crime has gone tremendously up in Venezuela. It's like
Yeah.
you can't go out at night. You cannot go out at night. It's basically a death sentence.
Yeah, that's when the shit starts happening is at night because they can't see you. That's like here in the West, like what happened during the summer of love. They're burning shit down at night,
They don't
so you
have
couldn't
electricity.
see what it
They don't
was.
have electricity at night.
That as well, brownouts, and that's going to be more frequent. I think in the U.S. you're going to see a lot of. We're already seeing that with Verizon, with Microsoft, the shutdowns and stuff. You're going to see frequent brownouts. You're going to see supply line shortages very soon, if not already, because we're already seeing it. But that's going to be the new norm. So you're going to see a lot of brownouts. You're going to see a lot of shortages of different types of food, supplies, sewage decline, garbage pickups decline, people services starting to go to shit, which we've been seeing over the last decade anyway. But it's going to get worse, and it's just going to become normal. So it's like, Oh, power's out for last 12 hours. Oh well, that's normal. I mean, this what happens when you're in a third tier country that went used to be a first tier, kind of like how in Georgia was like that when the Soviet Union collapsed. There was a civil war for 2 years, and they would get power maybe 1 hour a day out of a 24-hour period. They have water and gas for 1 hour a day to cook and clean and to like basically fill their water jugs up. And they still have them today. If you go to a lot of people's houses that lived through that, they they still have like a garbage bag or a garbage can full of water they keep on in the house just in case, because it's drilled in their minds that shit could happen again and that they won't, you know what I mean, just like me being through 2 major hurricanes and 6 7 storms. As soon as one comes, I'm well prepared. I've already got the water, everything, the meal replacements, all that shit. I got everything ready to go. Fuel, gas, the trucks and everything are fueled up. You know, everything's ready to go. I got bug out bed. I got first aid kits. I got everything just in case I got to leave during a hurricane. That happens very frequently. And it's second nature. You know what I mean? That's how it is when you're when you're living in these third tier countries that are collapsed first tier countries or second tier countries. People are just used to the chaos and it just becomes a normal day, a normal thing. And you just keep accepting it. So, the fact that there's 15 plus 30 million legal immigrants in the United States voting and getting free gimme-dats and welfare and housing and shit like that, you just accept it. You know, it's just like, oh, it's just normal. I mean,
Yeah,
once
there's
you,
just like 200,000 people coming every year, so every
yeah,
month through the border, and it's just like, okay, it's just normal life, I guess. It's just
yeah,
it's true.
you'd be amazed how much people will accept, how much shit people will take. People are pretty resilient, and people will accept a
Not
lot of
even
shit.
resilient, but numb. They're numb.
Not as well. You're resilient and then you become numb. You know, it's like you're resilient to a point and then you become numb to it. And then eventually when it's a point where you're starting to starve or it's affecting your livelihood or it's affecting your way of life to the point where like it's not a minor inconvenience anymore, but it's actually going to cause death or some type of some kind of shit, like someone's going to die as a result of it, not having access to food or medicine or housing. That's when it becomes revolutionary, and we're there in the Western economies. Those that are overseas, we have a lot of people follow us from Europe and China and Russia and everywhere else. The United States is close to a civil
I mean,
unrest,
think
to a
about it,
civil
right?
war.
The Financial Revolution was fueled because of failed harvest, because of irregularly destructive winter, right? And the winter was so destructful, like it destroyed so much that yeah, there was no bread. There was no bread. There was like a shortage of bread in the 1780s, late 1780s, and the Jacobins, they used that as a justification to overthrow the state.
And that's going to happen. That's what's happening right now in real time in the West, in the United States. You understand where these hurricanes hit? That's the last, like all of our manufacturing in the U.S. Most of it's in that area. That's where they make the Airbus. That's where they make a lot of vehicles, like the Corvette, the Nissan truck. A lot of different types of vehicles are made there. Biotech companies. A lot of agriculture is got destroyed. A lot of the land. This is where it is. This is where it all was. It's because this area is very affordable to live. And it's very affordable for companies to relocate there. So a lot of these corporations go there because they're non-union states. So they hire a lot of non-union workers. And a lot of these plants were destroyed. There was a chemical fire that exploded not even like the day after the hurricane made landfall, and that got memory hold. They don't talk about that shit. We were you remember that?
Yeah, I saw the explosion. It was very big.
Yeah, I think we covered it last week in the podcast. But yeah, that shit got memory hold. They don't talk about it anymore. They gotta clean that up too. There's no FEMA money, so that's probably not even gonna get cleaned up. Probably not. And that's just gonna get in waterways and all kinds of shit. I mean, it's like I said, it's when you have crisis upon crisis upon crisis in a short period of time, that's the end of an empire. And that's what happened to the Soviet Union. That's what happened to Rome. That's what happened to Greece and all great empires. They had multiple crises within a short period of time, and they couldn't control it. They couldn't mitigate it, and they couldn't recover from it. And eventually, the shit just collapsed. And that's where we're at now in the United States. And I've been predicting this. I said back in 2014, 10 years ago, I said 2025 will be probably the end of the American empire. And we're here. And my predictions have been pretty accurate, eerily accurate with timetables and everything. So yeah, so I mean, it's time to get the fuck out. You're at you're at let's say there's a clock, you know, a 24-hour clock. You're probably at hour 20, 23 and some change to get the fuck out before, you know, it gets really bad. Because it's already bad. I mean, I was like telling you guys like 6 months ago, I was afraid to fly. I was afraid to eat the food. How many recalls has there been with food so far? Food that had to be recalled because it was toxic or they found shit in it, seed oils in it, you know, Red 40, which is a petroleum product. That's in everything. Doors falling off of fucking planes. I mean, mid-flight, not just once, not just twice, but even to JD Vance, the door fucking like almost flew off the airplane as he was landing to a head of state or to a vice presidential nominee. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This is America. You know, we have 4 astronauts lost in space right now. That won't be able to come back until next year. Because the Boeing fucking aircraft they sent up there, the Boeing spacecraft they sent up there, they sent not one, but they sent 2, and both of them are fucked up.
MDEI, man. MDEI.
DEI. It's partially DEI, but it's also incompetent leadership, and the government's broke. Federal government's broke. States are broke. Like I said, this will be the first time because of this hurricane. This may be, and I talked to, like I said, talked to my I don't want to name his name because I don't want to jinx it. He'll come on, but he sent me an email today, and I was asking him if he would come on and he would go do some field work and go interview some people in the area. And he said, like, yeah, this might be the end of the Carolinas, like economically, because I said, I'm telling you, like I told you guys, Telegram group, before I even talked to him, he said this, and I was like, holy shit, yeah, that's what I've been saying too. Is this may be the first time you see a state file bankruptcy protection. We saw it in 2008 during the 2008 recession. The city of Detroit filed bankruptcy protection. They used the state they used the municipal bonds and the retirement. They used the city employees' retirement funds in order to pay off the debts, and those city employees got fucked out of their retirement. Basically, they got nothing. They got pennies. It's like corporations. When corporations file bankruptcy, and this has been a recent phenomenon, they start using the pensions, the company pensions, to pay off the debts, pay the creditors and the shareholders.
That's crazy.
And the courts just accepted. Like, oh yeah, it's fine. Well, you know, bankers first. You know.
In our country, I think though that got repealed. Like it's like it got repealed to the point in which the companies can no longer hold the pension fund. Like the pension fund cannot be held by them.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a separate account, and it is. And a lot of times they gamble it in the casinos, known as the stock market. That's what most states do with their pension funds, is they gamble it in on BlackRock and the casino known as stock market, mutual funds and whatnot. And when that, like I said, when this perfect storm hits, and again, this is what we're talking about. This is the title of the show, Economic Armageddon. Pension funds are gone. States file bankruptcy protection. They use what's left in the pension funds. They pull more. Like basically, it's like a domino effect. So, like I said, I think we're going to see the first time in the history of the United States a state declare bankruptcy and use the state pensions as collateral for those bankruptcy protections. And what's going to happen is they're going to liquidate those funds. So the mutual funds in the stock market and bonds and things like that the state holds, they're going to liquidate whatever they can liquid-wise to pay off the debts. And that's going to crash the economy, crash the stock market. This on top of the fact that the housing bubble is we're in a commercial bubble right now, but we're also in a potential housing bubble that's now coming in. Like 3 or 4 months ago, we had a surplus that was rising with housing, and people couldn't sell their house. There were people that had their house listed for about a year, and on the MLS and couldn't sell it, and it was priced way too high because the interest rates were, of course, absorbently high for the seasonally high, and a lot of them took it off the MLS, and now there's no inventory, and the interest rates are coming down. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, it's Biden economics at the end of the day, so nothing's going to make sense at this point. But yeah, I honestly think we're going to see a state file bankruptcy and a city file bankruptcy, major city like New York City or something like that, or San Francisco file bankruptcy protection. And it's a domino effect from there. So it'll be states filing bankruptcy, federal government, or states filing bankruptcy. The federal government's already bankrupt. I mean, they could increase the taxes to 97% if they needed to. And they have in the past. They put taxes up to, I think, 95% or something like that. That's what Kabbalah's talking about.
Did you see that the practice that they are doing, where the state is seizing houses because they have one payment, like they have one missed payment of property tax, and they are using that as an excuse to seize property and sell it. And the governor is like the owner of the company that the government is giving the house to sell it.
Yeah. I mean, that's normal. They do that in my county here down in Florida, in Republican shithole known as Florida. Yeah, they do that shit. The county, you miss one payment, the county will come and put your house up for auction next month. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the governor is like the authorities are like in bed. Like,
yeah,
sorry, hello.
Yeah.
The authorities are they are profiting out of it. They're profiting out, like they are literally like taking your house.
Yeah, NGOs, non-government organizations, where they basically privatize the government. And they do kickbacks to their buddies and friends and pals. Yeah, they all do that. Republicans, Democrats, elected. I think they're all scumbags. I don't give a fuck. Like I'm nonpartisan, man. And most people at Telegram in our group are nonpartisan. Links in the description. But yeah, I think they're both scumbags. There's a couple individuals here and there that are pretty good, but we don't know how compromised they are. The swamp is pretty deep. It's pretty deep across the country. But yeah, that's normal, man. Like I said, like the thing is, the Great Depression, the 08 recession, and the 2025 economic Armageddon, they're all going to have similarities in common. Banks failing, stock market crashes, massive fraud, malinvestment, and nobody's going to go to jail. You see what I'm saying? But this time, it's going to be, there may not be anybody going to jail, but it's going to cause some kind of civil unrest and civil war. You know what I mean? And the people are going to be pissed this time because like there's going to be no bailouts. So no one's going to be, these companies are just going to fail. And they're going to use the pensions they're going to use whatever money is available, because they're boomers at the end of the day, and boomers are scumbags. And they're going to take that money and they're going to just run. You're going to see CEOs fucking leave the country and try to flee to like countries that don't have extradition, and steal whatever they can, because they know they're going to go to prison the rest of their life, and they will just leave. It's going to be a very common occurrence. You're going to see politicians try to leave the country, quietly, and take whatever money they can steal that they've stolen over the years and try to take it with them. And I don't know if they're going to be able to catch them, but some will get captured, some will basically get the noose, and some will probably get prison if they're still a government and country at that point. But
when the ones that get killed, most of them are going to be actually killed on purpose. That is to say that there's going to be some sort of basically though, because it's hierarchical, right? It's not as if they are all the same rank. They have people above them in the hierarchy, and so if those above them decide, hey, you will make a really good tool for us because you can sort of as the illusion that justice has been served. So they're gonna be hedged you. They're gonna do whatever these things in public, right? They're gonna execute you in public. Okay, and this is just all hypothetical, by the way.
No, we're not encouraging anything like that. Like, we had a couple people, a lot of people leave. Like, when we started talking about this shit, they probably didn't want to hear it. It's too black pilled for them. But yeah, we're not talking about call to arms or anything like that. We're just predicting what could happen if this incompetence and leadership style that we're seeing in the Western economies continues. This is what happens when you have a Zimbabwe, Venezuelan, French Revolutionary style collapse. I mean, this is the shit that you see, and we're explaining in detail what would happen You know, if it comes true, which it probably will, this is what you can expect. You know, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. We're at an hour. I think we covered what we want to cover. Do you want to cover anything? Do you want to forget anything you want to cover? We're live, so if there's any things that you want to cover related,
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a video that I want you to play. It's related to the houses being seized.
oh yeah, send it to me. Did you send it in the Telegram or where is it? Is it on
I'm gonna
YouTube or?
send it on the Telegram group. Wait a second.
Yeah, go ahead and send it. Yeah, I mean basically, yeah, it's not good, man. Doesn't look good. I mean, if you can, I would. I mean, I would consider possibly looking at other countries at this point. Countries that are more accepting to Western peoples. You know, to Americans, to Europeans, probably other European countries, probably Eastern European countries, maybe Russia, maybe Republic of Georgia, Singapore, something like that. You know what I mean? Places where you can go to basically avoid any type of major collapse. Because there's a lot of guns in this country. There's a lot of guns, and there's a lot of nut jobs, and there's a lot of DEI that we pointed out in several previous podcasts. So, I mean, this isn't good. This is like a prison, you know, gang war wrapped into like a country, you know. And they decided to declare, you know, martial law, and your ass ain't gonna be able to leave. They'll shut the borders down. I guarantee that they'll shut the airports down. They'll shut the borders down, the ports. It'll be militarized, and you ain't leaving. I don't give a fuck. It would be easy to get out. I mean, it'd be easy to come in, but you ain't gonna get out. I mean, you'd think like shit. We have millions of people going across the border, and it's like you know, well, we're in wartime right now overseas, and people are coming into the country like no fucks given. But when they declare martial law, you're going to be like, well, why is it that like it was easier to get in the country when we were at war, and now that there's martial law, it's near impossible to get the fuck out of the country? How does that work? You know what I mean? And it simply is that going back to like Google and Apple and all these different, you know, companies, these social media companies, if the shit is free, you're the product. You know, just like, you know, these immigrants, these economic migrants coming in. Understand, if you are coming in and getting free shit, you understand you're the product. So eventually they have these elite people have plans for you, immigrants. They're gonna be giving you some flat jackets, they're gonna give you some guns, get you some training, and they're gonna send you on a plane to this place they call Israel, Palestine. And you're gonna be fighting foreigners overseas. And it's not like you're going to be able to, like, you know, go AWOL or desert because you don't speak Arabic. And the fact that you're an immigrant, these countries, if they capture you, will probably fucking kill you. So you're kind of stuck, you know, is the term we use in the military, stuck. And you're fucked. So, yeah, coming in, it's like a Roach Motel. Come on in and get your free shit, get your welfare, your housing, all that. But when they declare martial law, they close the borders down. You ain't leaving the country. Yeah. Welcome to America. Now you're a citizen. Here's your orders. You know, here's your conscription orders. Go and report to this OSS office and get ready to go to boot camp because you're going to Israel. You're going to Middle East. Congratulations. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
So yeah, we can go ahead and play the video.
Oi, May. Oh, you sent it to me secretly. Oh, okay. I got you. Let me pull this bad boy up. And it's got nice little what is it called? Oh, there it is. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Pull it up. All right, you see it, right? Yeah. Is this guy a shoe?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think actually he does like a lot of like fair like reporting, but the thing is, he only scratches the surface. Like he doesn't get as deep as he could be. And to be completely honest, if he did get any deeper than what he does, He'll probably be removed. He'll probably be taken off YouTube. So.
Oh yeah, of course, deplatformed. Yeah.
Did you know that some towns in America
Is that loud enough? Can you hear it? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I can
I'm
hear
sorry,
it. I
guys.
can hear it, man. I can
All
hear
right,
it.
cool.
are basically stealing people's homes?
One missed property tax payment and the government can take your home, sell it, and keep all of the profits.
You heard that right. People lose their homes over one missed tax payment. It's hard to believe this happens in America, but it does. I reported on the practice a couple of years ago, and at the end of this video, I'll cover what's new. But first, let's recap.
I'm just still in shock.
Tawanda Hall was behind on her property taxes. She was on a payment plan, but she'd missed $900. She didn't expect to lose her entire $300,000 home.
They took my whole house, my whole family's livelihood.
And they didn't give you change. They kept it all. $286,000 more than what she owed. The county's lawyers says this practice may sound unfair,
but it's also unfair to force those who pay their taxes to subsidize those who don't.
I pay taxes.
She's a nurse assistant.
I'm on a brain trauma unit. I lift people. I bathe people. I work hard.
When she found out she was going to lose
This
her
is
home,
fucking bullshit.
she wanted to pay off the debt.
I went to the mayor's office. I went down to the city county building. They didn't want our money. They said no.
They wanted your house,
They
your
wanted the house.
$300,000 house rather than your tax payment.
They stole our home from us and from our family, and it was a shock to all of us.
Why isn't this illegal?
I think it is illegal. I think it's unconstitutional.
Christina Martin of the Pacific Legal Foundation.
The government can't take more than it's owed. This is unjust and it is unconstitutional.
Martin won a similar case when a county took an entire home.
Over, get this, an $8 debt.
The government argued
there couldn't be anything more fair than informing property owners of
That
what
guy
is
has
going
a
to
nice
happen,
bow tie.
giving them time to act, and then letting them make an informed choice.
Do you think if he knew he owed $8, he would have paid it? Of course. He didn't know, and there wasn't a proper incentive to let him know.
So the government has an incentive to notify them in legalese so they can't understand it?
Yes, and then they also have an incentive not to work with people when they are honestly trying to pay, like Tawanda Hall.
We did not receive anything other than get out.
A judge dismissed Tawanda's case because the government itself in her case did not make a profit. The town
Government's
gave
like,
her home
"Get
to this private
out."
company. It got the money.
The government shouldn't be able to steal from its own people and then to give it over to their friends is just...
How do you know that they're their friends?
The company is literally run by the mayor and the city administrator.
Southfield Mayor Ken Cyber acknowledges the company made $10 million selling foreclosed houses.
The mayor, Cyber, I told him if I bring the money in today, could I get my property back? He told me point blankly, no, if you bring the money in, I'll take your money and take your house too.
I wanted to ask him if he personally profited, but he wouldn't agree to an interview.
I didn't think I was going to lose my house over $3,900.
In 11 states, local governments, if you're behind on your taxes, can grab your home and keep much more than what you owed.
Some guy comes in and says, how long will it take for you to get out?
We have a client who's sleeping in her car right now. The city took her property, turned around and sold it within days of evicting her for $242,000.
You have gotten 3 states to stop doing this.
Yes, we're asking the government to stop stealing people's life savings.
Good. It often destroys lives. After Tawanda's home was taken, her husband did construction work to try to recover their losses. He got sick, but then kept working. He died shortly after.
It was terrible just to know that he struggled trying to make it right.
The Pacific Legal Foundation appealed home thefts like that to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled 9-0 that that kind of theft is unconstitutional. As Justice Gorsuch put it,
everybody else has to abide by the usual rule that you only take what you're owed.
Finally, so now has the county that stole Tawanda's house returned the excess money they took? No. Now they're spending even more taxpayer money on legal fees, forcing her to prove the house's value in court. But at least that grandmother who was living in her car has now received $85,000. And I wish I could say such abuses were finally over, but a handful of states still use loopholes to get around the Supreme Court ruling. The Pacific Legal Foundation says they'll continue to fight those cases until they end this practice for good. Thanks for watching us. It's upsetting how often government abuses its vast powers.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that they do, like in like Florida especially, is like these elderly people that are like incapacitated, even if they have families, the nursing homes, like the state run nursing homes and NGOs, what they'll do is they'll take they'll try to take the person's house and like their property and and the insurance money as well in order to pay for them to stay at the nursing home. It's a well-known scam. They've been doing it for years, since like the 80s, since the Reagan administration.
Ridiculous, yeah.
It's very common.
There is no crackdown or anything, yeah.
No, it's just because the county, someone in the county, some government officials getting kickbacks. The United States of America is probably one of the most corrupt countries I've ever lived in my life. It's pretty corrupt. I've been in China and other places. It's equally as corrupt, if not more, than the United States. This is the downfall of capitalism, to say the least. And it's not capitalism per se; it's crony capitalism and corporationism. Corporationism is the best way to describe it, because that's what we have under the 14th Amendment is corporationism, where basically if you're not part of a union, like the union strike, they're incorporated because they're part of a union. And I talked about this in the previous podcast with Adam Mad Maxwell's, basically that if you're not incorporated or licensed, you're fucked. Like you have no representation in this country. You're basically a second class citizen, or not even a citizen. You're folks. You're just a resident. So that's why illegals are given more rights than actual residents that have been here, even citizens, because they're incorporated through the federal government, through FEMA or through some type of organization or some type of nonprofit or NGO organization that's basically sponsoring them. And they're getting kickbacks for bringing the illegals in here. We actually showed that in previous podcasts too, with these people that bought these, these hotels, and they basically use them as migrant centers, and they're privately owned or they're owned by NGOs, and they get kickbacks from the federal and state government for basically to make profit because they're incorporated. And that's basically the 14th Amendment that did that allowed people to basically scam citizens out of their money, out of their tax dollars, hard-earned tax dollars. That's all I'm going to cover on that. I really do think we're in economic Armageddon. I think civil war is upon us very soon, and powder kegs about to explode. All it's going to take is basically once they declare martial law due to a disaster, which we've seen, an economic disaster or a war in Iran, and they'll close the borders down and suspend comitatus and enact a draft, and your ass ain't leaving the country. You're military age, women or men. Don't matter. You're a military age woman or man, they're going to draft your ass. It don't matter if you're a female, transgender, any of that shit, because we're all now transfluent. So, and they passed that too, the transfluency. You know what I'm talking about? Think about it. If you are getting shit for free and you're like catering towards this, there's a reason behind all of this. And the reason is if they say, well, gender is kind of a construct. So like, we could draft women and men and non-binary and computers and whatever the fuck we make up, because like you're all basically slaves at the end of the day, and you're gonna go die and fight for Israel. That's all I gotta say for that.
Yeah,
final
man. I think it's been a good episode, but I think I have to head out now.
Okay, all right. Well, take care, brother, and everybody. Good night. Remember, like, subscribe. Go ahead and donate if you can. Telegram group links in the description. Join the locals channel, and this is Professor Red Pill signing off.